I like to think of Silver Lake as the sort of funky and creative neighborhood in Los Angeles. Silver Lake kind of went downhill a lot after the 50s and 60s. A lot of Los Angeles was fairly gritty, and then it started to get gentrified again. It still has, though, this really interesting mix of different kinds of people. So it's sort of a really diverse place within a city that otherwise could be very segregated. There's a nice mixture of people that want to kind of live in an interesting and beautiful place. Silver Lake as a neighborhood stretches between a whole bunch of little hills and valleys, and the main streets kind of get kind of wiggly and go around all the hills, so that you're really not on any kind of a grid. It's just really a hillside neighborhood. One of the great things about Silver Lake's sort of inhabitants is that they really commissioned a pretty wide variety of architectural homes. Most of the roots of modernism as we know it in the US are from houses that are around this area. Some of the more well-known modern architects that practiced here were Richard Neutra and Rudolf Schindler. They both came from Austria. They both worked for Frank Lloyd Wright in his Los Angeles office while it was here. I wrote a book called Bohemian Modern: Living in Silver Lake. My idea was to show a lot of images of how people live in modern spaces in a creative and individual kind of a way. The original people who built them, as well as people who bought them and inhabited them, have really made them unique and really comfortable and sometimes eccentric. In the last 10 years or 15 years, there's been a great startup of all these different stores that are catering to different home design objects, collectibles. There was always a tradition of vintage furniture stores, and I think it sort of attracted collectors in the first place. There's a cool new store called Reform School that's actually in the shape of an old schoolhouse, and they have all these pencils stuck to the ceiling, and they specialize in finding one-of-a-kind objects by local artists and unique, slightly odd home furniture items and collectibles. Next door to Reform School is this shop called Kelly Green, and Kelly, who runs it, is leading the charge towards more green and environmental design. She's also got a very particular eye for collectible home accessories and pieces. On Silver Lake Boulevard, kind of near the reservoir, is a store called Yoke that carries a lot of European imports.
Yoke is a design store that is half adult, half child. And my tagline is free range design. I'm Swedish, so I do have a lot of Scandinavian items. I am inspired by a lot of colors, as is evident in the store. I love finding things that other people don't have.
Hi Maria. Hi Jill. How are you? I'm good, how are you?
I know, I would say half the people by name, or I know their kids' names, or their dogs' names. So it has a really small community feel to it.
You really get a sense of the Silver Lake kind of community and neighborhoodiness, like around Sunset Junction, where there's a whole series of coffee shops. Like there's Casbah Cafe, which has a sort of Moroccan theme. And one of the great things about Silver Lake is that it feels like the kind of place where you can make your own life. There just seems to be a fairly even playing ground for people to kind of take creative risks and stuff, and I think that the architecture reflects that in a way. Communities like Silver Lake that are kind of tied architecturally to the kind of interests of the people that live there are very unique, maybe somewhat fragile, and one hopes that they'll be protected in a way. It's really beautiful.